Well, good morning, Ghana. Once again, you're welcome to the AM Club right here on MX24. If you're just joining in, you made the right choice. My name is Miriam Uduak Menta. We're about to get into our news review segment. My panel is already seated, but before we get into our big conversations, into the big conversations we have for you this morning, I want to encourage you to drink water this weekend. Mind your business or mind the business that pays you. But don't just drink any water. Jibu water is what we're recommending to you this morning. To grab your 20-liter bottles that come with the tap or 18.9-liter bottles, call us on 020-9845-817 or visit our website at www.jibuco.com/gh for more information about our brand, Jibu Water, a better life. Now, this Valentine's Day, which is coming off in a couple of days, this Valentine's Day is about to hit very differently, okay? Forget boring dinner dates and the same old teddy bears. We like teddy bears. Just don't rule that out completely, okay? Telecel is shutting down the University of Ghana Athletic Oval with the biggest campus party over Telecel Turn Up. On the 14th of February, Black Hole, Kweku Smoke, Kitty, and more are pulling up to rock the stage. It is given dirty December in February. Eish. This Val's Day, the mission is simple: no FOMO. That is no fear of missing out. No FOMO. Connect to love. Pass through the cashless bazaar in February on February 13th to the 14th of February and shop your favorite vendors using Telecel Cash. Smooth, easy, cash free. Follow at Telecel Ghana for all updates. And yes, this is how you and I are going to be celebrating Valentine's. For those who are single, get in here. This is the party for you. Okay, let's go do this together. Well, to get into our conversation this morning, joining me this morning, Enoch Fojo, aka MPP Communications Team Member, Abdullah Rahman M. Modan, NDC Communications Team Member, and from the Bright Future Alliance, he is the partnership lead, and he goes by the name Frank Kwe. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. How are we doing? You put our Valentine's Day prepared already. This one that Frank is wearing a touch of red. You ready for Valentine's? It's good. But you guys believe in Valentine's, so you guys are going to celebrate Valentine's.
Sure.
So you're going to do something. You're going to do something special.
Very special.
Is she watching? Boys, I love. Enoch, you have Valentine's.
No, please.
You know, you go to church.
Yes.
You go. Mo, you get Valentine.
Oh, it's the amount of love.
It's a month of love.
Extend love to anyone.
Everybody. My brother, if you found a special somebody like Frank has, like your conversation will be different. Don't worry. I got you. Anywho, but we have big conversations coming up this morning. One of it, which I think really has become a very important conversation to have, is the renaming of the airport. And so I'd say 1969 would be when the name was officially put on, but it was formerly a military base, and then becoming Accra International Airport. In my mind, I'm like, why was this so special to name an airport after someone who would have, what one will call now, would have, committed an atrocious act, like, planning a coup and all of that. But today, a lot of people do not know the background of that story and how Kotoka International Airport became Kotoka International Airport. And obviously some people actually even think that it's just stories that people tell just to make fun of the airport. But really and truly, that was where Lieutenant Kotoka was gunned down, was killed. And that was just in honor of him that they named that place Kotoka International Airport. That, for many people, is not enough reason to name an airport after an individual. There was no background of any success gun for the put together for the country. There's nothing developmental about he being, a lieutenant at the time. For any reason, there was no impact recorded from his end. And so again, the conversation continues. The leader of government business in Parliament last week mentioned, or a couple of weeks ago, is it last week? Last week, right? Mentioned that the consideration of renaming the airport had come up, and they would want to put it in law, make it solid a conversation to have, and then of course subsequently rename the airport. A lot of even people from the other side have agreed to the renaming of the airport. I'm going to find you. I'm going to let you. I want to find out from you what your take is on this conversation of renaming the airport to Accra back to. Note that that was the original name. So back to Accra International Airport.
All right, so thank you, and a very good morning to our viewers. So, just like you mentioned, to start with, it's important to understand the context in respect of which the um, airport was named after Kotoka. So, like you said, at the time it was somewhere around 1960, I think 1967, right?
1969.
69, sorry,
Yes.
that was when it happened. So what happened during the time was that, the 1966 coup that happened wasn't done just by Kotoka. It was a group of
Yes.
military generals, and so it was just part of the leaders of the coup. So I think at the time the leaders included Lieutenant General Ankra, one General Ankra. So even though he died, in fact, he died. Kotoka died a year after the coup, the 66 coup. That was in 67. It was an abortive counter coup by some other junior generals. And so when he died, in fact, the coup didn't succeed.
Yeah.
So still, we had military men in power at the time. And so since one of their colleagues was no more, for them, it was a good thing to commemorate or to immortalize his name. So what they did was to come up with a decree. So they had something like the General Kotoka decree, trust decree, somewhere in 1967. I'm not good with the dates. So that is what happened during that time. So that is how come they, as part of the things that they wanted to do to commemorate or immortalize his name, they decided to name the Accra International Airport after him because he died at the forecourt. They also gave some compensations to the widow, and then the children and all of that. So that is basically about that. So at the time, people saw him as a hero because people had the perception that Kwame Nkrumah was a dictator. He was using the country's money for all manner of things, and then the overthrow was a joyous one to the people at the time. So we can't blame them too much. At the time, that was their perception. But today, if you ask me, I would say that I agree with the changing of the name because if we may be aware, we realize that there's a current wind that is blowing through Africa. We are aware of many coups in recent times. In fact, in Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, and all of that, there are series of coups happening. And so for me, it is one of the most deliberate things that I would say the government has done in this era because we don't have to, as a country that is very democratic, if you look at our constitution, Article 35 of our constitution states clearly that Ghana is a democratic state. And as a democratic state, we are not supposed to give room to things that do not align with the spirit and letters of our constitution. You understand? So for me, naming our national monument is a primary. In fact, the Kotoka International Airport is the first national monument that you meet when you enter the country. Absolutely. So it's not just anything. We cannot use such a significant monument to glorify wrongs that were done in the past. So for me, I go with it. Again, according to our laws, if you go back in the MPP verse, the Attorney General case, that is the December 31st case, where it was stated by the then Justice Adade that we cannot use national resources. We cannot use national resources to immortalize or to celebrate things that are coups or actions that are not in line with the dictates of our constitution. So if we cannot do that, and then the June 4th celebration, the using of national resources for the June 4th celebration was stopped, then I think it's in the right direction. We can take inspiration from that because Kotoka is also a national monument. We use national resources to keep it in shape, to maintain the all of that. At least if you enter the country for the first time, the first engagement that you should have shouldn't be about someone who overthrew the first president of the country, whose vision would have led us to somewhere powerful. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And I'm going to come back to you, Enoch, because I saw you nod throughout the.
You want to come back to me first?
I'm coming to you, yes.
I thought you go to me because he was going to second his brother.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is again my
See,
brother.
let's not create the impression that Kotoka, what Kotoka did was something bad. Yes, he came through as a coup, but if he's saying that coups, those who did coups should not be given the opportunity or their name shouldn't be put on national thing, then I think Rollins, we have Rollins Circle, Rollins Park, and what have you. Then we should go back and just clear.
Which is agreeable. I mean, it's something
But
we
you
could
see,
consider.
This is just to settle political score. Anybody who knows what Kotoka did will tell you that Kotoka and his team were liberators who liberated the country from what then Nkrumah was doing.
What was he doing? I want to
Nkrumah
understand.
came in as a president, decided to just turn everything around to suit him.
To suit him?
Yes, one,
Wow.
we can, yes, that is the honest truth.
Okay.
We can talk.
To be honest with you, before you continue, I've actually heard a lot of narratives about Kwame Nkrumah that honestly surprises me. But because I am a little younger, and so when these older people are saying that they think, or they, in their view, Nkrumah wasn't a savior, but rather he was the one that caused us all what we're dealing with, they probably know better. So I'm going to want to listen to your perspective.
Nkrumah came in as a president. You see, the 1960 constitution that Nkrumah used, Nkrumah had his name in that constitution. He made the constitution in a way that nobody could take him away. He was the president. Anytime he wants to leave office. Nkrumah decided to use that constitution to sack a chief justice at any time he wants. Prevention Detective Act, where J.B. Dankwa was sent to jail and died there. You talk about Nkrumah, you are picked tomorrow, you do not go to any court. You are sent straight to jail. That was President Nkrumah. Let me put it here that Kotoka and his people didn't come in because they wanted to enjoy power or become president, but they came in as liberators to liberate us from what Nkrumah was doing. If there is a book, if you read, the day Nkrumah was overthrown, that is the very day Ghanaians jubilated more than any day in this country. So, yes, Nkrumah did his best. Nkrumah established a lot of industries. But you see, power entered into President Nkrumah's head, which led him to do a lot of things that was not going in conformity with what the people wanted. Turn the country's flag to CPP, Ghana's national flag. He turned it to CPP, CPP's flag. He made himself a dictator, more becoming like a coup leader, that nobody could say anything about Nkrumah's government. Let's not put, this is, I'm telling you, this is just to settle political score. Then to put the, you see, up to now we have somebody who overthrew Nkrumah's name on a very important airport in this country, which is Kotoka International Airport. So the notion that, why do we have someone who overthrew someone we claim as the best? It is clearly telling us that if you have Kotoka's name on the international airport, that when everyone enters the country, you are seeing it, then it means that Kotoka has something good on his books. People will want to read. The Kwesi Pratt and the rest, who are the CPP, Nkrumahist and the rest, why don't they want to open up? And when we are talking about Nkrumah, they say put it aside. Nkrumah is a good person. Let's open up the conversation and let's see what is in there. Why did people were happy when we overthrew Nkrumah? Let's ask ourselves, how many years did Kotoka and his people rule in this country? They only came in because of what Nkrumah did, came to shape up the system and open up for a democratic election. And we saw that. So let's not put in the mind that Kotoka and his people came in because of personal interest. They came in because of what they know. So my brothers here and the NDC and the others only want to settle a political score. Claiming or just want to put a picture in the minds of the people that Nkrumah we know is as good. Nkrumah has his good aspects. He was good, he did the best. But Nkrumah at the time became a dictator, more like a coup leader. You could not talk about Nkrumah. CPP became the only political party in this country, no other political party. You had no right to form any political party, no right of joining any other association aside Kwame Nkrumah's CPP. When you talk about him, the way I'm sitting here, I will move out, I will be picked, I will not go through any court, I am sent to jail. You go there, you die there. Nkrumah did a lot of things, but let's not put it in a perspective that Kotoka and his people. For me, I attended Kotoka Basic School from primary 1 to JHS 3, Bema
So they
Camp.
schooled you to understand that Kotoka was
No, nobody schooled
That's
me.
the orientation they gave
No,
you.
no, nobody schooled me.
Okay.
Why is Kotoka's name still on the school in Bema Camp?
It was
Telling
part of,
you
because
that
it was part of
I
the
mean,
decree.
you know,
Thank
because
you.
of,
It was part of the
military-
Thank you. What we are
Oh.
saying is that let's not create the impression that Kotoka and his people came in as a coup, but were liberators for this country.
Okay. So before you land on your comment, I'm gonna have you because I want to understand something. We do not want to make Kotoka look like a bad person. The actions he took at the time were actions that even in today's world is still very criminal to set up a coup. So you can be a great person and still do a bad thing, and you should be punished for the bad thing you did, which is pretty much what you're saying about Nkrumah. That Nkrumah had his thing. He did the right thing. He did some really good things that, by the way, as we sit here in 2026, so many years after, we're still enjoying. But he did some bad things too. And those are the bad things you want us to now highlight this morning. If it's not good for Kotoka, it's not good for Nkrumah too. What do you think?
Yes. If you listen me clearly, you would hear me say that Nkrumah at a time made CPP the only political party in this country.
Which is happening in Rwanda, I believe. It's happening in Rwanda now,
So,
but we can
which
tell
way could you have taken Nkrumah out? He has made himself a dictator, made a constitution to fit him. His name was in a constitution. I am saying that 79 constitution, 1992 and the rest, we could still use the constitution today, but we cannot use Nkrumah's 1960 constitution today. Because of how he arranged the constitution to suit himself. You could not talk about him. You could not do anything there. So the only way to put such a person aside is for us to continue. Nkrumah came in as through a democratic way, but ended up as a dictator, going through the ways of which coup leaders do. So how could you take him away? It is only through a coup. And we saw that after Kotoka and his people came in, arranged things, they opened up for an election. Why did Kotoka and his people do that? It is telling us that they only wanted to liberate the people from the hands of Kwame Nkrumah and what he and his team were doing then. That is as simple as that.
Okay, so some other people wanted to be leaders because, again, we're going to try as much as possible to make this very, very educational. Some people also wanted to be leaders too. Whether the leader in government at the time or the leader at the time was doing the right thing or not, just open up for others to contest you, to be able to, it's supposed to be a democratic state. And so why are you the only person? If I'm getting your conversation right, that's what you are purporting.
Yes,
that was the case.
Nkrumah was very
But what
popular
does it matter?
then.
What does it matter? Is that not where we are today? That tomorrow NDC can take 4 years, MPP will take 4 years, mess us up in 8 years, 20 years, everybody can do whatever they want to do. Every single time we have a new government, nobody continues what another person is doing. Is that not what we're praying for today? That we would have leader. You don't have time. I'm saying my thing. I'm going to go to more. Because I don't spend a lot of time on one guest, you notice. But I'm just trying to, because of what the education you're bringing on the platform, I want us to get clarity that if today we're asking that we want a leader that will save this country from what we're going through. And so if it is Mahama for the next 8 years or the next 20 years, let it be so. Like I gave a classical example as what's happening in Rwanda. Who cares who leads Rwanda? As long as Rwanda is a good country, as long as economically they are doing fine, who cares? Do you know what I mean?
Yes, but that is democracy. You see, aside everything good
so
you are
really
doing,
and truly, Africa, we don't need democracy then.
We do not.
We need a leader who understands what the countries need or what the continent needs. And then everybody should just go and sleep. We don't want to vote. And again, I'm staying with you. I'm spending so much time. My producers are shouting in my ears. But I'm spending time with you because I want us as young people to understand that what we need is a better Africa. Last week, I was part of the Africa Prosperity Dialogues, and I was fascinated by some of the things that they were bringing on board. But then I also left the conference thinking about it, like, do we really understand what it is that we are looking for if we're saying we're looking for a borderless Africa? Because we, the young people, want to be partisan. We want to be free to do what we want to do. When we want to bring who should lead us. Yes, we are asking for a progressive Africa. We're not serious. We're going to go to... I'm coming to you. One day I'll spend time with you, to get deeper into this conversation. But I'm going to come to your take on renaming Kotoka International Airport.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I think today's discussion should even move beyond political lenses to what my good brother Enoch is trying to do. And it's so worrying and disheartening to see a very young guy like my brother trying to, rewrite things that are unrewritable, things, that have caused so much pain and agony to the people of this country. And look, it's so dishonest on the part of MPP. I know that some people in MPP actually support this.
Yes.
The majority of them are not in support, and they feel it is just for political points. Now, when this country, my brother mentioned something, the 31st December issue, I brought the writ, the Supreme Court writ is here. If you read it, MPP versus, the Attorney General then, you see, MPP contradicts themselves when it comes to, issues of constitutionality. When it favors them, they are okay. But when it goes against them, they have an issue with that. They argued vehemently in the Supreme Court that it was wrong to glorify someone who is a coup leader, and it affects or has an implication on the democratic brand of this country. So the 31st December celebration that is supposed to be known as a public holiday should not stand. Based on the argument, the Supreme Court, adhered to that particular decision and declared it as null and void. So if today we have somebody who led to the overthrow of someone who gained independence for our country, we should name our international gateway the first language that Ghana speaks to over 3.4 million people annually that passes into our international gate. Is that the kind of language we should, be sending to these people? And I keep on asking myself that if maybe I have a friend who is coming to Ghana for the first time, we are in the plane, and my friend asks me when we reach Kotoka International Airport, when my friend asks me that, who is this Kotoka who is this Kotoka that his name is everywhere? Who is this Kotoka that, when you are about setting off, you mention Kotoka, when you are like to hear Kotoka, who is this person? What am I going to tell my friend? He's a cool leader who overthrew Ghana first, president. Somebody who fought tirelessly to make sure that Ghana gained independence. Is that the kind of image? Is that the kind of language am I going to tell my friend? So, should I say, in real sense, when it comes to the issue of law, this shouldn't stand. Now, Kwame Nkrumah was somebody that we all know was a Pan-African president who wanted to lead, Africa to achieve a certain kind of liberation. Do you get it right? And let's send our mind back that the 1966 coup led or embodied a lot of coup or military takeovers in this country. What E.K. Kotoka and his people did gave a lot of power to other African leaders to overthrew a lot of constitutional regimes. That is what Kotoka has done. So you want to tell me that, or my brother want to tell me that if Kotoka has died in the sea, we are going to name the sea after him? Eventually, no. Do you get it right? So the mere fact that he died there and we want to glorify him, we shouldn't name an international airport, the first international airport of this country, after a military person. Do you get it right? Look,
the sad thing is that
I don't have issue if we build a statue or name a military barracks after Kotoka, because that is who he is. Do you get it right? But naming a monument, monument after him, is what doesn't sit well for many Ghanaians. Do you get it? So let's be very nationalistic about our discourse, our conversation. And I don't know why MPP is a political party that has normalized naming state institution in this country. We were in this country that, UDS that was founded by, Jerry John Rawlings, was named after party members of MPP. Nobody complained. We were very quiet. Do you get it right? But today, they have issues with renaming. We were in this country that the Tamale International Airport was named after Yakubu Tali, a sub-chief in Tolon, who was a founding member in MPP. That is what MPP did. They renamed the Tamale International Airport after him. Nobody spoke about it. To an extent that when the Minister for Transport visited Northern Region, and the Yana Press is also said, the Yana Press, when he addressed the transport minister then that, look, we need a name that will unite the people of Northern Region, not a name that will bring division among us. They didn't listen to us. They went ahead to name it. When you reach the Tamale International Airport, the name was the Yakubu Tali International Airport. That is what MPP has done, and that is their track record. So today they shouldn't be have the moral, or there shouldn't be the moral referee to tell us what to do. And in fact, this one, it matters. We are at a crossroad where we need to protect our democratic image of this country. Do you get right? And if you go to AU, as it stands now, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's statue is there. Why do we have his statue there? Because he led a Pan-Africanist movement to be able to consolidate the gains of Africa. That is Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Okay. So if we have AU people landing in this country, and we have Kotoka name on our international airport, how will AU see Ghana?
So the conversations have moved from it being just about us, and note that we are also including our voice in building an Africa without coup, and to again And I wish Enoch was.
I want to educate him.
Okay, educate him.
So
Please, you cannot. You can't.
You want to
all
make
right,
your
so
point.
I want to make my points. Fair enough. So I want to correct
Quickly, please.
some wrongs. So it spoke about Dr. Nkrumah and mentioned that he was a dictator. In fact, we need to understand, in as much as you have the opportunity to share your views, it is improper for us to say things that are not. You see, we have to put things in context. To start with, Nkrumah, whatever he did at the time was for a reason. He wasn't a blatant dictator like
What did he do, and what reason was it?
Exactly. So today, as we speak, all of us glorify and compare Ghana to Singapore. We compare Ghana to Malaysia and all of that. People who had independence around the same time, who are doing massively well. How were they able to make that transformation? It was through the one-party state or one dominant party ruling for the years. What was Nkrumah's problem with whatever was going on at the time? In fact, I would want to take you back. Let's look at the parties that were cropping up during the Nkrumah era, which it didn't give room for. Now, if you look at the parties, I just want to mention them. We have the Northern People's Party, that is the NPP. We have the Muslim Association Party. We have the National Liberation Movement for the Ashantis. We have the Anglo Youth Organization. We have the Togoland Congress. We have the Shife Mokpe and all of that. Now, what is common amongst all of this? These are ethnic groups, powered. They are powered on the ethnic lines. As a country that has just gained democracy, as that just gained independence, we did not need that division at the time because we had a goal. Now, Nkrumah thought that if we should give room for all of these people to come into the picture, there's going to be a lot of diverse views, and it wasn't going to help the agenda. It wasn't that he didn't want dissenting views. Let me be frank with you. There was never a time that Nkrumah was directly dictating anything. Even in the case where he made the CPP the only party, it was through a plebiscite. It was a democratic style. It wasn't like he just stood up one day and decided that, okay, the CPP is the only country in there. There was voting. The citizens had to vote to decide that, okay, we want the CPP to be in charge. That was what was done. So it wasn't like he just stood up and then took advantage of the system. Again, it wasn't just about dissenting views. You know, between 1958 and 1964, there were a lot of attempts on his life.
Yeah.
Put yourself in his shoes. People trying to kill him and all of that. The notable one is the Kulungugu bomb attempt on him. Imagine if you were the president and then people just didn't want you, and it's not like they just didn't want you or they had diverse opinions, but they were attempting to kill you. What were you going to do at the time? So all of these things that he was doing was for a bigger picture. But you see, a lot of us are myopic. We don't look at the bigger picture. We look at just today. If we had believed in the dream or the vision of Nkrumah, Ghana would have been somewhere very important.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, before we delve back into another conversation, I'd say that over the weekend, again, like I told you earlier, I was part of the African Prosperity Dialogue. And one of the things that I noticed that was said, in fact, this one was said by Patrice Lumumba, that what we are crying for today was being cried for many years ago, but we didn't listen. And today we are fighting a battle that is going to be a bit more difficult because now we have leaders in place who enjoy presidential roles, who enjoy MP roles, who wants to drop that to become a borderless Africa, to become an Africa that is ruled by a common, leader or whatever structure it is that, because even that conversation is a little, shaky for me. I think we need clarity on what we really need. Is it a borderless Africa we need, or an Africa that we can move freely and trade freely? Because that's a totally different conversation. But that's, again, like I said, we'll come back and have that conversation again. Still on the conversations of democracy, and as part of our democratic energy that we enjoy, elections have been included in our structure of choosing a leader. And over the weekend, we did see one happen, the primaries within the NDC, and some irregularities have been recorded. And so I'm going to start with you. First of all, your party has released a statement. Number two, the presidency did release a statement immediately to withdraw the Baba Jamal's position as the High Commissioner to Nigeria, and some punitive measures have been said to be put in place if he's found guilty. Tell us why the position, and so why so quickly? We do understand that in the statement you said that it was to reset the political landscape, but we don't, even for him, if it looks unfair, because we don't have evidence of he doing what might have been said that he has been done. So I'm going to start with you.
NDC is, I mean, as our party goes, we are a democratic party, and we set the pace. And our agenda is a reset agenda. We want to reset ourselves. Charity begins at home. If we are not able to, I mean, reset ourselves, it will be difficult for us to set as an example for, I mean, other political parties to, I mean, mimic us. So NDC, we don't condone, or personally, I don't condone vote buying or vote inducement. And
So that has been part of our political culture
yes,
for a very
that's
long
what
time.
I don't. You see, it brings a culture that if you have rich ideas, bold ideas to serve your people, the mere fact that you are not resourceful, you cannot be given the opportunity to serve. And that is where we find ourselves in. And that is where the discussion must be tailored. We shouldn't be encouraging those stuff. And for me, all the release from the, I mean, from the party to the presidency, I mean, it's in a good call. It's in a good, I mean, trajectory to set the pace or precedent that, look, we are not going to allow any party member, regardless of your, I mean, your rank in the party, if you do what is not right, we are going to what, I mean, apply the strict sanctions to you.
Okay.
And that is what we are seeing now. Okay. We don't sweep issues in the carpet. And just yesterday, the majority caucus in Parliament also released, I mean, a press. I don't know whether you saw it.
Yes.
They released a press calling for the annulment of the election.
Yes.
I mean, all this is to be set a transparent tone. You get, and why Baba Jamal was, I mean, actually called, I mean, recall from his position was that, is it that he granted an interview during the electioneering process. He granted an interview admitting that the TV he's given to them is not to induce them. It's a gift that he's giving it to them. I actually listened to the interview, I mean, several times, and I was actually trying to make meaning out of what he was trying to say.
So what was his statement about then?
He said it's a gift, a token, and for him,
something he has been doing over.
He has been doing it for over the years. That's what he has. And timing is very important too. Timing,
language,
and is very important. You can't be sharing something on an election day and claiming that is what you have been doing. Yeah. So for me, I think, I mean, all the directives from the party to the presidency is in a good call. Okay. And we Ghanaians must embrace this. Okay. We are not a political party that will condone such things in our party. So if you need a political party that will condone vote buying and vote inducement,
over, my guy.
Then it's supposed to be the MPP.
The MPP has not called you. This is none of your business.
Oh, is that?
It's none of your business.
If you need a political party,
have you seen them anywhere? Vote buying or vote selling?
Their presidential primary. Didn't you see branded envelope?
Oh, please.
Branded
envelope. We didn't see. Did you see?
Branded envelope.
And what did you see? What was in the envelope?
Branded envelope. Money was there.
Branded envelope. Do you
branded envelope?
Did you see what was in it?
We saw coming to just crying that Misika mean to abano.
And that's someone to abano uncle.
Crying and lament no.
Your take on vote buying, the conversations coming from the presidency, the party, and the NDC, and all the conversation around this whole Baba Jamal situation.
I don't even know where to start.
Do you want
yesterday,
to go before?
Yesterday I was at Ayawaso East.
Yes.
NPP, we did a popular acclamation for our candidate Baba Ali Yusuf at Nima Cluster of Schools. That is the same place they did their primary.
Yeah.
So after we did a float, I followed. So inside the float, I was hearing, if you don't give us the 9,000, we also no vote. If you don't give us the Kusiano Meko, we also no vote. If you don't give us the pad, we also no vote. If you don't give us the 32 inches TV, we also no vote. Just one day. What are we saying? 1 year in government, and we are seeing this from a political party that clouts itself as the most holiest people in this country. What was the press form for? The one released from the office of the president.
It was to condemn the act.
Baba Jamal alone. They didn't see the.
Oh no! You should have read the statement because they said that they were going to investigate every individual.
Please,
whose name has
is
been
Baba
mentioned.
Jamal the only appointee?
Oh no! You're not the one. Let me answer. But in the president's statement, he emphatically said that the reason why Baba Jamal is the one whose name is out is because he's a government appointee.
Is he the only government appointee?
Well, he was the only government appointee who has been put in a position, and also as part of the what was that thing they read in please, Bright Future Alliance, help me. the conduct, the code of conduct.
Sure.
No government appointee is supposed to indulge in such act. So again, it was a call in the right
Is he
direction.
the only government appointee in
Who
there?
else is the government appointee?
Hajia is on 3 boards.
Which Hajia?
And please, let me
The
make
widow,
my point.
the widow.
Please. You see,
Please, you can't speak.
I don't
You can't
know.
speak. I don't like that. I don't like that.
You know,
Let
I,
him speak.
you know I don't like that.
Enoch,
Thank you.
Enoch, please make your
Thank
points.
you.
Make your points, please.
So Hajia, which is the widow, is on 3 boards.
Appointed by
Hajj
government.
board, yes. Lands Commission board and Sankofa Prestia, what have you, board. One person.
And was she reported to have been indulged in
You can say all what you want, but the people there yesterday, she said 3,000 Ghana cedis per each delegate. What is the government telling us?
I see.
Why the attack on Baba Jama? Then we are seeing another press from majority caucus that they should annul the whole election. Why? Don't they want to see Baba Jama in parliament? Is he not one of them? Why is the government taking a position as if they have interest in this election? Last week, we saw before the election, majority caucus going to the widow's place and gave her a cash of about 100,000 or so.
The girl lost her husband.
I'm coming. No problem. No problem about that. But you see, don't make the assumption that you have a personal vendetta against one individual in an election where all of them were at fault. What is NDC saying? There is a report here. A report from Ghana Integrity Initiative report saying that in the primaries you did, President John Dramani Mahama shared an amount to every delegate. Why is he claiming as if he's a saint now? Please, vote buying is part of the system, but it's not the best. Don't act as if you are the Jesus now of our country. You yourself, you've indulged yourself in vote buying more than anybody, President John Dramani Mahama and all his appointees. Why do you want to claim as if you are the most holiest now? As if Baba Jama is the target. We should go and annul the result. They are waiting. The delegates want another Kusiani Meko. They want another pad. They want another... The amount said each delegate got 9,000 Ghana cedis. I am telling you today.
If you interject again, I don't appreciate that. Let him make his point and land.
Each delegate, total amount from each of the aspirants is 9,000 Ghana cedis.
Okay.
9,000 Ghana cedis. 32 inches TV. Some got ice chairs in Abemu, pad, Ivo Gary, Adaka, and a whole lot. You said all of this.
Delegates are not
Please,
serious.
I want to ask, is it Baba Jama who said all these items alone? You see, let's not make the assumption that the majority in parliament and the government of the day is taking a position to seem as if they had interest in this election, and that, you see, the Greater Accra Regional Minister in Ablekumanov did an interview, if you could remember, about vote buying. He said it is part. Why? What is wrong with that? Was she sacked? Why Baba Jamal today?
Okay.
Let's not take a position as if you have a personal score to settle with Baba Jamal. And the PR antics in that letter, you sacked him. Who said after this primaries, after he has won, he was going back to Nigeria? Why did they want to act as if they had? And you see, I always say that NDC have a target, they have their audience. And I saw senior big men say, wow, NDC, you are doing well, President. But you know that whatever is in that paper, it is just PR and antics. This is vote buying, and President John Dramani Mahama is a person who has enjoyed vote buying and has brought him to where he is today. Please, they should stop their PR antics and allow Baba Jama. He is in Ayawasu, he is campaigning. No announcement of election. He is going to campaign. If they bring it again, he is going to win again. He has the cash. They showed us that in 1 year they've been able to pack cash and they are distributing an OSP. What is that letter he brought out? What is the MPP's name doing there? Please.
Yes. So your name has also popped up in no. I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't appreciate that.
I'm not going to interject.
I don't appreciate that. When it's your turn, I'm going to let you speak.
I'm not interjecting. I'm not interjecting.
Please, Enoch.
OSP brought a letter. People have tagged you a lot in their report that what went on in NDC's primaries is one that is not the best. Come and investigate. Then you bring out a communique referencing MPP. Who has sent him? Election. Is he now coming to tell us that he has now remembered that MPP did a presidential election when there was vote buying? Why now? You see, timing, as my brother said, timing is important. The OSP is taking a position as if, and it is creating an impression in the minds of the people that he is scared of the NDC, and any attack on the NDC will get him out of his office.
Okay.
That is clearly what he's doing.
Thank you so much for your submission. I'm going to come to you quickly before we wrap up the conversation.
All right, so thanks.
And I'm sure my viewers will be asking me, won't you speak? I will speak.
Sure.
Let's go.
All right, so This is an interesting one. In
Yes,
fact,
it is.
yesterday I did a press release, and then it was forwarded to the various media houses to nullify the election and then rerun it, and then all those found guilty should
Did
be.
you bring it to us? You didn't.
I shared with, but I think the one of was on offline, so
Okay.
maybe after.
Guys, find me that statement.
All right. So I did, and then I shared the legal issues and everything in there. Now to start with, this is what I would want to say. We are very young people here. I'm not sure any of us here would be 40. So for young people, I believe that when issues come up, we should look at it with a different picture. It shouldn't always be about political lines. We have a future and we have where we want to get to. Vote buying is very wrong, wrong ab initio from the beginning. Both the NDC and the NPP have been involved. It's something that we know. It's something we cannot sit here and say that we don't know.
We don't know it,
But
yeah.
when I was in the church, there was one time I was advising someone. I told the person that I take alcohol, but in the church I don't take alcohol. I don't take alcohol in the church, not because I'm a hypocrite, but I find that place very important, very solemn, and so I don't feel it's okay. You can't drink alcohol in front of your dad because of how you were brought up. It doesn't mean you don't take. You're not pretending.
And you're not a
The
hypocrite.
bottom line for this particular election was that Baba Jamal granted an interview and then mentioned that yes, he has given out gifts, but like I said earlier, it wasn't to induce anybody. It was something that he's been doing, something regular. And so this is that one of the moments. And so we're talking about time. We've been frowning on the vote buying thing for long because today our politics have been monetized. It's about who has money, and that is the trajectory that we are going. And then the issue here is that it is one of the roots of corruption. I am an anti-corruption crusader, and the Bright Future stands for
Alliance,
this.
yeah.
So one of the roots of corruption is that when you monetize everything, when you do such a thing, you go into the election as an investor instead of a representative of the people. Now you go there as an investor who has invested so much money into the election.
You need to
So you
recoup.
go the first thing you need to recoup. And so instead of focusing on representing the people in parliament, you go there trying to get contracts, trying to make your money back before you can even think of the other people. So for me, it is wrong. But again, if it's been tolerated over the period, at least don't come out. You see, the moral right to even come out and then
Yeah.
say that it is normal. You find
audacity.
so just like my brother said, the Greater Accra Regional Minister also did an interview where she mentioned, which I frowned on it. But even in the NPP, the same happened. Even in the recent primaries that he did, Kennedy Japan's son was seen in a video where he was saying, okay, a lot of them. So I won't say NDC or NPP. Both parties are doing that, and I believe that for a want of word, we need to be serious as a country. We need to call people to order. There should be accountability. There should be punitive measures if we really want to brand ourselves well. For me, for the NDC, whether we like it or not, the NDC has a goodwill right now. And for them to maintain the goodwill, they need to do that. Because when you say resetting is not just about our economic life, but also the mindset, the conscience. And so what was done, even if it's a PR stunt, for me, it's a step in the right direction. At least it shows the will to how do you call it, curtail whatever happened. So it's a point. And as you may be aware, the president is out of the country. I'm sure that when he comes back, because even if in his absence he has issued this communique, at least it shows that he's paying attention and some, because you cannot just issue that communique without the president knowing. So if even outside he's issued this communique, I'm sure that when he comes back, he would do something better. For the OSP, I agree with my brother when he says that the OSP is playing some kind of a game with us. I mean, the NPP had their primaries some weeks ago. If you had an issue there, you were supposed to issue a communique that maybe investigation has started, but you don't wait for an issue to happen around this time during the Ayawa Suis, and then all of a sudden in your first introduction, you bring in, let's be objective, it is very wrong. So I find the OSP should be strong and firm. You know, when you are doing the right thing, you don't need to favor anybody.
True.
Do your thing. The truth will always favor one party, and you may be seen as biased, but it's about your conscience and about the principles that you are working with as an office. So as people, we need to be very serious about this thing. And for me, it's a criminal thing. And so beyond the punitive measures, whoever is involved, they have to be taken on.
Yeah.
That is what shows a proper resetting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Frank. Thank you very much, Enoch. Thank you very much, Mo. I think that all the statements, all the conversations that have gone on, especially about our very last story, is one that I like the angle you came from, because we need to understand that we're young people.
Sure.
And the precedents that have been set down as a young politician, as a young man who is interested in politics, as a young man who's an advocate for anti-corruption, we all need to understand that all of these things that we are interested in, one day in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, we're going to suffer from it, depending on how how the conversation goes. So if you fight for the right thing, maybe in the next 10 years, you and your children will be sitting up like, oh, this thing that is working is because I added my voice. Yes, vote buying is not a 2024 thing. It's always been in our system, and all parties know. And some of them have participated in it. It does not mean that we cannot change the narrative. So this is to you, Enoch. It does not mean it cannot change. It does not mean that if I said that, again, that's why we have, let me use the Christian style, okay, where you can be a sinner and when you go to God, he can forgive you. And then he will give you another chance to do things right. And I'm not here admitting, because I don't know, whether His Excellency John Dramani Mahama at any point or Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo at any point indulge in vote buying. But it does not mean that they cannot correct the wrong. It does not mean that they cannot put people that they put under them, whom they've put code of conduct down for them to adhere by, back in line if they go wrong. There's nothing wrong, in my opinion, Enoch. There's nothing wrong with the statement, because I read it twice this morning. I've read all the statements from OSP to the majority caucus to the president. I think that is a call in the right direction. That at least we set a new precedent that says that we are not going to engage and indulge in this. If my brother decides that he wants to do that, I'm going to detach. We're going to make sure that they suffer, even though we are the ones in power. If we can punish our own, which is pretty much what we've asked for, that if the Attorney General can clear cases, then should clear these other cases too. Here we are. We're saying that if they can decide that they want to start clearing issues like this, then when they go for the MPP, we know that they have a clean sheet. If we see the MPP indulge in anything vote buying, we know how to handle it, because the NDC has done it to their own. Do we get where we're coming from? So in my opinion, this is a little education I want to add to the conversation this morning. Brilliant thoughts all across. In fact, this morning I've enjoyed this conversation, especially you, Enoch. But I must say that we should not indulge or encourage, vote buying, because our people need a lot of education. The civil societies that are supposed to be educating people, that they are the ones who hold the power to select who leads them. And they actually are the most powerful, not the politicians. They don't know this. And so they will engage in, Muma me 32 inches, no Muma me 1,000 cities, na me voting mao. Whereas you are the one giving the person the job. You are the employer. That education is going to, and so that's your job. That's your job. Bright Future Alliance, that's your new job. But gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me this morning. It's been a great conversation. Conversation continues online. What are your thoughts on this conversation coming from the presidency to annul? In fact, the majority caucus is asking for the entire election to be annulled, which I second. But Enoch doesn't agree. But okay, that's why we have diverse opinions. But yes, we're going to follow keenly this conversation and see how it develops, what it develops into. But I think that we are, we're on the right path, and somehow we'll probably see the Ghana we're looking for. Now, to you other connects with us on all social media platforms, MX24GH Connect. Let's keep talking. Like I keep telling you, this is not just a morning show. It's a movement. We're learning and growing together, and we're building a better Ghana. And so share with us your opinion on what you think, or the opinions you have on the topics we touched on this morning. Let's keep communicating. Let's keep interacting, okay? All righty. See you tomorrow from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. right here on the AM Club. My name is Miriam Udwa Kumensa. See you again tomorrow.